Okay, let's get started with our candidates. And once again, these are nonpartisan, and so the election will be the election of these candidates. And we have two divisions, Division 1 and Division 3, represented here. The divisions, I've been told, there was a question I didn't get to the last time. The divisions are for the purposes of elections. These folks all have similar caseloads, but I guess you're assigned in a rotating fashion. So we have these candidates. Tim Linkus was not able to be here tonight. I have a statement I'll read from him. These are vying for Division 1, correct?
Yes, correct.
And this group is vying for Division 3. Russell Clauges is unopposed, so that'll be an easy decision for y'all. So we'll begin once again with the candidates introducing themselves. And do we have the red plate ready? Okay. I believe I'll start once again on this side. So Gail, if you can come introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I just want to make sure you can hear me. I'm Gail Voorhees-Lipscomb. I am running for Circuit Court Judge in Division Number 1. I have made that decision after a long career of 21 years in public service. And I believe that after serving the community and serving the counties that I've worked in, it's time to learn where the most benefit can be to represent the community. No candidate or no elected official is entitled to their position beyond the elected time. Judges' terms are 8 years. One term is 8 years. I believe that, of course, we have elections because the candidates and the elected officials have to prove to the community that they are doing what they're supposed to be doing and making a positive influence and positive changes to benefit the community. I believe that after 21 years of serving as a prosecuting attorney and a public defender, that I think the most improvement can be made by now moving to the judicial side of public service. I have seen many, many people come through the courtroom. My job is to help protect and stand up for victims and people in the community. I believe now that the most important improvement needs to be made on the bench. Leadership is the most important part of that improvement. Leadership from the bench is what gives the perception and the confidence in the people of the community for the judicial system and the court system in general. I think that is where we need the most improvement, leadership from the bench. And that's why I've chosen to move to the next phase of my community and public service, is to be the Circuit Court Judge in Division Number 1. I think in order to determine what would make a good judge in that division and how those improvements need to be made is to look what has been done by each candidate in the past. It's not good enough for me to stand up here and tell you what I'm going to do or what I think is needed. I think you need to look at, for me, what I've done in the past. I have dedicated, and I am the only candidate who has dedicated their entire career to public service. I was an assistant prosecutor in Logan County. I was an assistant prosecutor in Harrison County, a public defender in Preston County, and for the last 12 years, I've been an assistant prosecuting attorney in Montague County. I have chosen that because I believe that my duty is to the community, not to one individual for the purpose of money, but for the entire community for the purpose of the protection of our citizens. The protection of our citizen is not only the prosecution side, which I have done for a very long time, but what happens to those people? We spent a lot of time in talking with the magistrates about what happens to people that come before the court as criminal defendants needing consequences or punishment. really how we deal with those citizens and how we protect our community is the sole responsibility of the judge. What happens to people that we bring to court? As a prosecutor, we bring people to court. What happens to them is the sole discretion of the judge. I think that's what is most important, to create a situation and a confidence from the community in our judicial system that I believe over the last 8 years has been diminished and is lacking. And so that's one of the reasons, and the main reason, that I stepped up to run for judge. Not because I decided it would be a great day to be judge, but because I dedicated myself to that public service and beholden to the people. I think we need to realize that judges are public servants, not self-servants. And it's important to have that attitude and have that responsibility and accountability to everyone that we serve from the bench. And so I'm asking for your votes. Thank you.
Good evening. All right. First of all, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for having all of us here tonight. It takes a lot of dedication to the system and a lot of time to have a forum like this solely for the purpose of informing our citizens. I don't take that privilege of being here lightly because I know how much work has gone into it. I also want to say hello and congratulations to Judge Klodges, Dara Summers, and Ed Hawkins, wherever he went, because they are not running for office this time. I've been in that position before, and it's a rare privilege, and it says something about their service to our community. I want to talk about promises. It's easy for candidates to stand up here and make promises that they're going to do this or they're going to do that. I'm not going to make you any promises that I haven't made already. And the promises that I have made to you, I have followed through. Most importantly, I promise to be fair and impartial and apply the law. According to our judicial canons of ethics, we really can't promise much more than that. We can't take a stand on issues like I believe in union laws or whatever it is. We can't do it. What we can tell you is that we will be fair and impartial. And that's what I've done for the last 8 years. My experience has been a balanced experience. I spent 17 years in the prosecutorial end of law, and I've spent 17 or 18 years in civil practice. So all of the law cases that come in front of me, I know how to do them. I know the law, both civil and criminal. While I can't make any promises, I will tell you there are some accomplishments that I've made in the last 7.5 years that I'm particularly proud of. One is the anti-truancy program. I believe that I have made a difference in the lives of many children in our county. It all began when I saw a production put on by our Supreme Court and another judge in our state. And the statistic that got me interested was the fact that 80% of kids who do not graduate from high school wind up in prison. I couldn't believe it. And so I started dedicating myself and a large part of my day to helping kids graduate, by listening to them, by encouraging them, by using every community service possible to get them to graduate. I'm also proud of the fact that I initiated a committee to address the ethics of lawyers, based on the proposition that if we don't respect each other and keep our own ethics, we can't expect the rest of the community to do so. In other words, charity begins at home. I'm cutting this short because of the time period, but I'll be glad to answer questions. Another thing that I'm proud of is my learning experience with regard to cases involving people addicted to drugs. You've heard some talk about it tonight, so I won't elaborate. But when I started this job, I was very naive. I just figured if people wanted to, they could just quit drugs and that was it. And when somebody on probation came in and they'd done drugs, I figured, well, okay, I'll just send them to prison. Sounds easy. It's not how it works. All you get when that person comes out of prison is a drug addict who's been in prison. It's unfortunate that our state has not allocated enough resources to handle it. Our community has great resources, and by piecing those resources together, I think we're doing a pretty good job in filling the gap. I want to talk about entitlement. Gail is absolutely right. No one is entitled to a job. I've worked very hard since 1984 to show you all that I deserve your support. I'm working hard now, campaigning, meeting you, listening, and putting myself up in the spotlight, literally, so that you can examine what I've done. I don't think I'm entitled unless you think I'm entitled. And the only way you can show that is if you vote for me. And honestly, if you don't think I've done a good job, you shouldn't vote for me. But if you do, then I ask for your support and your vote on May the 10th. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Deborah Scadair. I'm a resident of Westover here in Mon County, and I am privileged to be able to run as a candidate for the Circuit Court in Monongalia County. Our division is Division 3. I especially appreciate the opportunity that's been given to all of us who are running for this position and the other judicial positions by the League of Women Voters. I know that this takes a lot of time and effort, and I certainly appreciate that they have been good hosts for us this evening. I agree with what the first two speakers, with what Susan and Gail have said. And one of the points that they made was that you can gauge what a person is going to do a lot by what they have done already. And I would submit to any voter in Monongalia County who wanted to discuss this with me that my professional career has been one of service. I am an attorney who has been practicing in Mon County and in all of north central West Virginia for the last 34 years. I graduated from the WVU College of Law, and I continued my practice in this area. I have practiced in a lot of different subject areas, including criminal law, civil law, abuse and neglect of children. I have served and been called upon to serve as a mediator, as an arbitrator. I have been asked to be a guardian ad litem for children in settlements and large cases in which they are involved. Some of my clients, you might be interested to learn, are the people that you would be proud to be representing if you were in my position. I have always represented police officers and small businesses and cities and towns and health departments, and I have always been proud to go into a courtroom and represent their interests. A few years ago, I was very privileged to have been elected as president of the West Virginia State Bar, which is the mandatory licensing agency for all lawyers in West Virginia. So through that office, I was able to travel throughout West Virginia and to meet a lot of different lawyers. And I always talked about the pride that I had in being a lawyer in West Virginia. And I was proud of my colleagues in West Virginia who work so hard for their clients every day. I also served as president of the Southern Conference of Bar Presidents, which is all of the states from Texas up to Missouri and all the way to the East Coast. And I want to tell you that I'm also proud, and this is very hard actually to say these things because then you sort of feel like you're bragging a little bit, but I believe, again, that your past predicts your future. I have been rated as AV in the Martindale-Hubbell system, which is a ranking system where judges and lawyers rank each other. And AV is the highest ranking that you can get, and I'm very proud to have earned that. I have been called upon to teach pretrial litigation at the WVU College of Law as an adjunct professor. I also teach trial advocacy at the law school. And I'm also called upon by various groups and attorneys to come and give seminars on negotiation, on mediation, on arbitration, on how they can negotiate their own cases. Presently, I'm serving as the chair of the State Judicial Vacancy Advisory Commission. And that commission serves the governor and the people of the state by choosing people to be recommended to the governor for vacancies that occur whenever there is not an election. I'm also the representative of the West Virginia State Bar Board of Governors to the American Bar Association's House of Delegates, which is a group of about 600 lawyers from all across the country and in some cases across the world in its legislative function. I would be privileged to be able to continue as what I like to call myself as a worker bee. I don't need the attention, I don't need the controversy, I don't need to bring attention to myself. I like to solve problems as a mediator, as a litigator, as an arbitrator, and I would be privileged to be able to serve the people of Monongalia County as one of its circuit court judges. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Cindy Scott. I am a candidate for Circuit Court Judge in Division 3. I have been raised here in Monongalia County, and I find it interesting as I come here and I see people that I've graduated from high school with, or people that my children have played t-ball with, and people that I've gone to church with. And so I think that shows my ties to the community, because at the events that I go to, I have served with these people in different capacities over the years. I'm here tonight with my husband. My husband and I have been married for 28 years. He also is from Morgantown. We've both graduated from high school here, and we have 2 children who are now attending WVU. And I think that what I would like to start by introducing myself and telling you about who I am is that my experience is somewhat different than the 2 other candidates in this election, because all of my experience has been in the courtroom. I have been a courtroom attorney for 22 years. I have practiced on what I've termed often as both sides of the bench. For 12 years, I was a private practice attorney, and during that time, I did criminal defense work. I did a lot of child abuse and neglect work, and I did civil work. I was both a plaintiff's and a defendant's attorney on the plaintiff's side. I was into my 10th year, I have been an assistant prosecuting attorney. And as my role as an assistant prosecuting attorney, I have primarily worked the domestic violence cases. And one of the things that I have learned and would like to share with you tonight is that there's a lot of dynamics to cases, and there's a lot of changes in the dynamics in these cases that I've seen happening here throughout Monongalia County. And I think as an assistant prosecuting attorney, I've learned how to gauge that. I've learned what motivates crimes, what some of the reasons are, and how to prevent that, how to put provisions in place. A lot of victims, when I meet with a victim for the very first time, one of the very first things they want to say to me is, I don't want my offender to go to jail. And my very first comment is, let's work through this. My role and my goal here is to make sure that this doesn't continue. I want to make sure that I can make a safe environment for you to continue to live in. I want to make sure that there's provisions in place to make sure that this doesn't happen again. That's been my focus of how I attack a criminal case and how I've worked through those throughout the last 10 years. And so then getting back to when I say that I've been a courtroom attorney, I'm coming for you today, and I'm running for this position because I want to continue to serve Montague County and use the experience that I've gained to serve in that role at this time. I said to you that my children, we've chosen to raise our children here. They're both WVU students, and I want to keep Montague County the way it was when I grew up here. And so we've all talked a lot about the drug activities and incarceration, and I think it takes a combination, but I will use Magistrate Neighbor's word. I think it takes wisdom. And the only way that you can acquire that wisdom is to come up through the ranks. I started doing minimal cases in magistrate court. I've worked those cases up to more serious felony cases. When I was in private practice, more serious civil cases. And so I think that experience is what gives you the wisdom and the ability to decide how cases are to be resolved and how the dynamics of those cases have changed. I also want to remind everyone that as a judge, and I think you've heard that here before tonight as well, is that in the position of a judge, we don't make the laws. You're going to hear from lots of people over the next several weeks, those that want to make the laws and make changes for Montague County and for the state of West Virginia. My role will be to interpret and to enforce or to apply those laws. And so that's why I think this position is so important to you hear a lot of people speaking about integrity and fairness and justice. And I think that I've gained that respect as an assistant prosecuting attorney. I've gained that trust and respect of this county in the way that I've done that job. And I think that clearly the same skill set that I've developed will be what I carry into this next position. And it's one that I can tell you that I will bring fairness and integrity to that position. So I'll just end by saying that I would appreciate your support. It is my desire to continue to serve Montague County and to use the experience that I've gained to serve you well and to preserve the community that I grew up in and preserve that for our future generations. Thank you.
First, I want to say thank you, League, for allowing me to come before my neighbors of Montague County and let them know, those that don't know me, who I am. My name is Philip Gougeot. I am now the sitting judge of the 17th Judicial Circuit, Montague County, Division 3. And I'm running for the continued opportunity to serve the people of this county. Now, the office of judge is not a fill-in-the-blanks position. It's one of the most important positions, I believe, that there is in a county. On any given day, I deal with criminal matters, civil matters, juvenile matters. On any given day, my decisions, they affect the liberty, the financial welfare, and the future lives of people of this county. Most important issues that you can imagine. They're issues that will affect all of our loved ones. And by voting in this election, you and the other residents of this county will determine if I continue in that position. Now, in making that decision, what do you want in a judge? You want a judge that is thoughtful and intelligent to the extent that he knows what the law is. You want a judge that will listen impartially to the parties involved in the litigation. And you want a judge that will rule in a manner that's fair. And that's a judge that will judge without bias and without favoritism. Now, we all know that we have biases and prejudices. But a judge that you want, I believe, is a judge that can set aside those prejudices and biases that the judge has and rule in a manner that serves justice. You want a judge that's fair, that's honorable, that has humility. You want a judge that has integrity. Because when you think about it, the position of judge is all about integrity. We want a judge that the community can say, that man or that woman is fair. Why? Because integrity is everything to the justice system. If we lose integrity in the justice system, then we don't have justice. Now, I have two opponents that are running against me. And apparently they think that they could do a better job than me or they wouldn't run against me. I suppose that's what they're thinking, either that or they want to be judge. I think that I have served this county well. I believe that I have demonstrated a toughness when toughness is necessary. And I've just demonstrated compassion when there's a need for compassion. I think I'm a pretty good judge. I just finished trying a case today, 1 minute. And both lawyers on both sides complimented me in the manner that I conducted that trial. And I can say with pride that I get that often. At my stage in life, what's important to me is legacy. Believe it or not, I want to be known as a good man and as a fair man. Why? Not for me. Of course it's nice to hear it, but I have children and I have grandchildren, and I want them to be proud of their grandfather and their father. And when they hear my name, I want them to hear, your grandfather, your dad, he was a good man, and he was a fair man. So vote for me if you care to. If you think somebody can do a better job than me, then vote your conscience and vote for that person that you think can do a better job. Thank you. Oh, and I always do this, Carol, I'm sorry. My bride back here, my girlfriend of 51 years, and my bride of 49, Carol, she is always there for me. She's my rock, and she's always there for me. Stand up, Carol. Let them know who you are. Come on.
Now, I mentioned that Tim Linkus could not be here this evening, and I probably should have read this statement when he's with these candidates over here. So I'm going to read this, and I'm going to read it as is written. So I will say I, but you know it's not me, okay? I'm not running for this office, all right. He said, I regret I'm unable to be present for tonight's candidate forum and appreciate your willingness to hear these brief, important comments. I was born and raised in Mon County and have been involved in the Special Olympics, served on the Morgantown Library Board, and regularly volunteered in many community organizations. A circuit court judge should have a background of academic excellence because of the complicated legal matters the court addresses on a daily basis. I graduated with honors with 2 Bachelors of Arts degrees in Education and Political Science from Denison University and graduated 15th in my class from WVU College of Law. Received several honors during law school. I'm regularly invited to participate in instructional activities at the College of Law. I teach lawyers at continuing education courses and speak to professionals about the intersection of the law and their practices. A circuit court judge should have a background of professional excellence. I have served as a managing partner of offices in 2 separate law firms, have appeared in 47 counties in 3 different states, and tried cases in 16 different counties. Over 10 years ago, I started a Morgantown office for my current law firm and successfully grew it from 1 lawyer to 9 lawyers with 18 employees. I've represented individuals from every walk of life, from professionals to farmers to coal miners to teachers and many more. Importantly, out of all the judicial candidates, and even among the current judges, I am honored to say that I have the single highest rating for professional excellence from the Martindale-Hubbell, which includes legal knowledge, communication skills, and ethical standards. It's based upon detailed anonymous feedback from judges and lawyers from around the state, including my adversaries. Thus, I have a track record of the highest proven professional excellence. Finally, a circuit court judge should have proven management skills because the position requires management of cases, a docket, important issues, and people. When the court is not managed well, cases linger and people's lives hang in the balance. As managing partner of my growing and successful law office, I regularly assess the systems and procedures we have in place and then make changes accordingly to be efficient. My client base continues to grow, even though the community knows I am running for office. And that is a testament to the confidence people have placed in me and my legal ability and management qualities. I encourage you to contact me. I feel I've never had quite so many qualifications myself, but so that's his statement. Now, he won't be able to answer the questions that you all get a chance to answer. So here are some of the questions. We'll begin, and I think what we'll do is begin with you, and then two of you, okay? Are there changes you would like to see in West Virginia Judiciary? Are there any changes you would like to see in the process?
I know that there has been talk of an intermediate court, and I have been kind of part of the study process of that. So we're looking into that. The state is looking into that as to whether it's necessary. And so we'll see how that turns out. It could take a couple of different forms. It could take the form of a completely standalone court where the members of that intermediate court between the circuit court and the West Virginia Supreme Court of Appeals are elected on their own, or it could take the form of current circuit court judges throughout the state serving stints on that intermediate court. And so we'll have to see how that goes. And I can't think of anything else that I see on the horizon as being discussed, but probably these other folks can think of some different things.
I think I'll start by saying that we have been blessed here in Montague County that we were able to add the Third Circuit judge since the last judicial election, which will have been 8 years ago. And so I think our legislators are very aware of our caseload and the volume that's increased here in Montague County. And so I think the changes that we need have been happening. They've been coming forward. I think with 3 circuit judges, we're able to better manage the caseload here that's given to us. One of the changes that may help is, in addition, we've started a little bit of specialization, not a lot, but clearly as judges are able to specialize and handle something more just specifically, and I'm not sure if you guys are aware of that. I know that was one of the questions that was asked, is that we do have 3 divisions, but each person equally serves Montague County. The cases are just rotation assigned to each of those divisions. However, maybe in the future, if there was some sort of specialization, I know we've done some of that with the drug courts and the judicial or the juvenile cases with Judge Tucker. But that would be a way that we would be able to more efficiently continue serving Montague County if we were able to focus on one specific instead of just doing the general rotation.
I believe that the judicial system, the justice system, is evolving already. You recall that back in the mid-'80s, there was a movement in this country that people felt that if anybody did the crime, they did the time. And so we started incarcerating people at a severe rate. And now, in 2016, we found that we incarcerate more people than any other country in the civilized world. We spend more money per inmate than we do educating our children. We spend approximately $28,000 a year to incarcerate one person. Now, the movement that started in the mid-'80s has started to change. And we found that most of the incarceration has to do with nonviolent crimes dealing with drug addiction. I see it every day. Judge Claudius sees it every day. Judge Tucker sees it every day. And it's basically the same format. You have people that are poor, people that are uneducated, people that come from environments of poverty and lack of education, which leads to depression, which leads to drugs, which leads to crime to support that judge, or that drug, to imprisonment, to having pegged with a felony, and then we say, go out and find a job. So here you have an uneducated, poor, addicted felon trying to get a job. And let me tell you, there's not a lot of jobs out there for those people. So what do? Well, number one, they're trying to get out of reality, so they want to do drugs. So they do drugs. And they become addicted. Doesn't matter if they've been incarcerated before, they're back out on the streets. They can't get a job, they've got to eat, they've got to support their families, and they have to support their drug addict. So what do? Crime. So now in 2016, and in the last 5 or 6 years, we've evolved into therapeutic sentencing. Judge Claudius has an adult drug court, which he started. He's the architect, he started it. I started the juvenile drug court. We believe in early intervention. If we can get to these young people early, before they can become addicted, that's what we need to do. The same as education. We've got to educate these young kids before they even start first grade. We've got to change, and we're doing it. And that's what I see. And that's what I've been doing. And that's what I'm all about. I say often, that's the hardest part of my job, dealing with my drug court. We have a great team working with, it's very labor intensive working with these young kids. We work with them every single day of every week. And if I'm elected, I'm going to continue to do that. And I have some other, I'm running out of time, but I've got some other ideas that I hope to implement if I'm reelected.
We do have an evolving judicial system. One of the things that probably you all don't know about is our Judicial Association. It is an association that every judge in our state belongs to. Our retired judges, called senior status judges, belong to it, as well as our Supreme Court justices. We meet twice a year, and these fine people, and they are fine people with lots of experience, in the last few years have come up with some ideas to help local judges. One of those ideas that's been implemented is to start a business court where complicated business cases that might take up a single individual judge's time away from the regular everyday things that we have to do. A panel of judges takes over those cases and manages those. Also, we have a mass tort litigation group. You may recall when asbestos cases first started going on, there were hundreds and thousands of people who believed they had been harmed by asbestos. And I know in our county, court stood still for everything but asbestos. Now we have the mass tort litigation groups, and they take over those mass cases and manage them so that the local judges can continue the local work. And as Judge Gougeot mentioned, our adult drug courts and juvenile drug courts also arose out of that association. So I think we are evolving. I'm sure we could be better, but I think we're doing the best with what we have at this time.
Let me first say that everyone else introduced their families, and so I'm giving a nod to my husband, Vance Lipscomb, who is here today and proudly supporting me. We have 2 daughters who are involved in the community, ages 16 and 12. And both of us coach their softball teams and are involved in the boosters, involved in the school system, and involved in community activities. And when the question is posed, how do we improve the judiciary? Here's one of the things that I think is important. You can't know what's going on in your community without being involved in it. And so I think it's very important, if we are going to look at how to improve what we do from the bench, you have to know what's going on in your community, not simply from the bench, but from being involved in it. I deal with kids of all ages, teenagers, young adults, young children. I've been guest speakers and taught in high schools, elementaries. I also have my teaching degree, so I taught government before I went to law school. I think it's important to be in touch with that community. That is what's important to improve the judiciary. In doing so, you learn one of the most important things that you can have on the bench: utilizing your discretion appropriately. The 3 things that I think are important to make a good judge are strength, fairness, and consistency. You have to have the strength to be able to make right decisions. You have to have fairness in order so that everyone that appears before you is treated with respect, that is earned and given. The respect you give to the people that appear in your courtroom is given back to you. You earn it by being a responsible and accountable member of the community. The biggest thing I think that needs to be improved is consistency. Because as judges, and I think one of the biggest problems or maybe complaints from the community is, it depends on who you appear in front of. And so there are guidelines that have been made through the legislature, such as the probation, revocation, and sanctions. Because there's such a wide variety of discretion in how to apply that, there are now codes and rules for probation violations. You have a first violation, you have a second violation, you have a third violation. Statutes and the codes lay out what is available for those violations. I think that has been an improvement, helping to keep the discretion that the court uses consistent all around. And so I think those guidelines are in place to make everyone's appearance before a judge fair and consistent. And I think that's the improvement that needs to be made so that people in the community respect and have confidence in the decisions that are made by the judges.
Given the caseload that judges have, how can a judge save the taxpayers' money by being on time to court and organizing their schedules efficiently?
in my courtroom, management of time is of paramount importance. Now, the Supreme Court of our state has advised the circuit judges of the state that we should promptly allow cases to proceed through the process in a timely manner. What I have done while serving as judge is I've just tried to manage it, and I think I've been very successful at doing it, completing cases in 18 months from the time they're filed. Now, how do I do that? We all have gone to a doctor's office, haven't we? When you have a 9 o'clock appointment and you're sitting there at 11 o'clock and the doctor still hasn't seen you and you see people come and go. I don't do that. I run my courtroom from 8:30 in the morning and sometimes from 8 if I need an extra half hour to 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And I schedule every half hour or every quarter hour. When the lawyers ask for time, I ask them how much time they need. Now, if I have a 9 o'clock hearing, and I think the lawyers here at the bench or here at the panel will say I have a 9 o'clock hearing. And if there's a 9:30 hearing, those people that are scheduled for 9:30 are there. And we have a 9:30 hearing. And that goes like that all through the day. Nobody waits. Now, there may be a minute or two, one way or the other, or we may be waiting for a lawyer or a party. But if the hearing goes longer than the designated time, then I have those parties and those lawyers step aside, and then I take the 10:30 hearing, and if there's time, and there generally is, to hear the 10 o'clock case, then they come back and they finish. What I am as a judge, I'm a manager. That's all I am. I'm a manager of cases, and I manage a case from the beginning to the end, and I'm successful at doing it. Every case that comes before me, every civil case that comes before me, I have a scheduling conference. And the lawyers come before me, and I schedule, and I say, okay, now, I want this case tried in 18 months. When will you be able to come before me for a pretrial? And we set a pretrial date. And then I set a date for the end of discovery. And then I set a date for pretrial conferences, scheduling for motions. And I set a timeline when people have to designate who their witnesses are and their expert witnesses. And I tell them, this is a format that we will follow. And 9 times out of 10, we get it done in 18 months. Now, that doesn't mean that there is times when it goes beyond. Now, if you get a medical malpractice case or a serious multi-party lawsuit, it could take, a few more months. But my plan is 18 months, and I'm successful doing it. Now, criminal matters is a different matter. I have to go with the schedule that's given to me by the prosecutor, and when the prosecutor elects to indict. But we have to give a criminal defendant a speedy trial, and that's a constitutional right, and I make certain that happens, unless the defendant asks for a continuation to allow more time to prepare for trial. 9 times out of 10, there's an agreement between the prosecutor and the defense. So I don't have to make a decision. They make it for me. But that's my plan, and that's a plan that I think I can follow. I've been successful at it, and I think the lawyers that come before me, they, bar none, they tell me they like the way that I'm doing. So that's me.
clearly the most important part of managing an office or maintaining a schedule is to make sure you are available, to make sure that you are there early and if you need to be, and late if it's called for. But I would say that my ultimate goal would be to respect the parties, respect the people that are coming in front of me. Some of those people need a timely resolution. Some people need additional time to get all their facts together and their cases prepared before they're ready to go to litigation. And in some cases, there are absolutely statutory provisions where hearings need to be held, review hearings in 30 days, and dispositions within 90 days. And so I think it's a matter of just making sure that you're aware of the types of cases that are scheduled on your docket so that you give appropriate time, that they're scheduled within the provisions that are required, and that you show respect to the parties and their needs. Some people obviously need to be held to the fire and have schedules come a little bit more quickly. But I think most importantly, it's working as a team. And I would say as an assistant prosecuting attorney, I know what it's like to have 15 or 20 hearings in one day. I mean, that's not every day, but that has happened. And so I know what it's like to have to be prepared, whether it's the day before or the evening before, to be able to hit the ground running on the day that we're scheduled that full. And so I think that's the most important thing, is that when the court's open, we're there. You have your schedule open, you respect the people, you give them the amount of time that they need, you hold their feet to the fire where they need to, you follow the law where that's necessary. But you know, most importantly, it's just making sure that we use all the time that we have available. I think you've heard us say before, sometimes you know, there's jury trials that are scheduled that may be resolved, so you want to make sure that you have those, you know, maybe 2 cases scheduled at the same time so that you can take advantage of one that's resolved and there would be another case that could fill in. So we double book sometimes, but we do what we do to make sure that we can get through the caseload efficiently. And thank you.
I don't mean to be flip, but this is not brain surgery. A judge needs to show up on time. A judge needs to be there. A judge needs to come to work. A judge needs to be there every day. A judge needs to follow the schedule that he sets. A judge needs to make decisions. When a hearing is set for a particular day and the hearing is held and the parties are waiting and waiting and waiting on a decision from the judge, that's not good for the case, that's not good for the parties. And so I would make decisions, because that's what the parties need, that's what the parties want. We need to be organized, we need to be mindful of the interests of the parties who are in front of us, and we need to make decisions and get these cases through, because the parties need finality. They are here to have the judge help them resolve their differences. That may be through mediation, that may be through different hearings, that may be through scheduling conferences, that may be through all kinds of different mechanisms. But the judge is the shepherd. The judge is the person who gets the case through the system, and the parties depend on us, and that's what the role of the judge is as far as management. I'm a very good time manager. I keep things going. I juggle dozens and dozens of cases at any one time. A judge needs to do that too, and I would do that. Thank you.
If only it were that easy. It's not. You can schedule cases every half an hour, every hour, whatever. That's not real life. Sometimes cases deserve more time than is allocated. My goal is to give each case the time and the attention that it needs, and that's what I do. It's difficult to manage a docket because humans are involved, and so I do the best I can with each case, regardless of how much time it takes, and I try to do that every day with all of my hearings.
clearly this is a management question, but I think I agree with Ms. Scudere, who indicated that it's pretty simple. Part of the question is, I think, short-term, and part of the question is long-term. How do we ensure that every day you start on time? Well, you get there on time. I know Judge Stone used to say that he's not going to complain if people are a couple minutes late, because there's going to be times when he's a couple minutes late. If you're an hour and a half late to a jury trial, that's not okay. And so it's simple. Be there. That's the short term. In the long term, I think it's important for docket management to know when to have a hearing and when not to have a hearing. A judge has the discretion to either clog up their own docket or straighten it out. I think that keeping people on track is important, but I also think that it's important to do your homework. If there are things that can be determined without a court hearing, there's a lot of decisions that can be made by simply doing your homework and being prepared. And so I think it's important to know when it's necessary to have an evidentiary or a hearing that requires argument and when it's not. Sometimes we want to hear good things about people and have review hearings when everyone's doing well. If the docket doesn't allow to constantly bring people in to hear how great they're doing, then that's something that can be removed. Our job is not to be the probation officer or the supervisor. That's their job. And so in order to clean up your docket, you have to know how to effectively use it. And I think it requires preparation, time management, and doing your homework and knowing when to have a hearing and when not. And I think that's part of the cleanup for a long-term docket.
I want to thank you all for answering our questions this evening. You will have an opportunity to ask more questions when we have refreshments. So let's give these folks a hand.
At the Landing Dental Spa, our goal is to provide quality dental care at a relaxed spa-like atmosphere. Dental chairs with heat and massage, warm neck wraps, and personal TVs make your appointment as stress-free as possible. Located off the Pierpont exit, now accepting new patients of any age. Call 304-594-2200 today and visit our website at www.thelandingdentalspa.com to schedule an appointment. The Landing Dental Spa, a healthy smile with peace of mind.